What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious along with Just Total Package and the Nature Boy Joe, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industries, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Today's topic, Mount Rushmore TV Champions. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast. And on social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. This is going to be fun. TV Champs.
You know,
very unique.
I'm milking the Mount Rushmore. I'm not going to lie to you. Because we've already done like heavyweight champions.
I love them. They're my favorite episodes to do.
We're gonna
we can do them all day, every day.
Yeah, there's so much more that we could do. So I wanted to do the television. So it's the NWA/WCW Television Championship from Crockett into WCW that we're going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and, because I know you motherfuckers, like all of us have put Arn Anderson on the mountain. So I'm going to permanently put him.
What do you mean?
On the mountain.
You don't know that.
All three of us. Are you denying this? Like all three of us are going to put Arn Anderson on the television championship.
That was my first pick.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just put him on the mountain on all of ours. So now we just have to fill in the other three.
So Jess, before you fill in the other three and you start, how many times was Arn a TV champ?
He was 4 times the television champion, and he had a combined days. He holds the record for the most days combined. So out of his 4 reigns, he held that title for 877 days.
Woo! Would love it.
Crazy.
Miss you, Arn. So Arn Anderson is going to be on the Mount Rushmore. I just thought it was silly, and we all talked about it before, obviously, wink, wink. But I was like, yeah, we're all going to put Arn Anderson. I'm betting.
There's no way.
I'm betting we're definitely going to have 2. All of us are going to share the same 2, so it's Anderson and one other. And then I'm thinking maybe 3. I'm thinking maybe at least 2 of us will have a third one in common too, because there's not a lot of champions, but Joe was also saying too, like there is a wild card, but there's like 4 or 5 people that I could also say that I counted as honorable mentions as well, so that I would not be disappointed if any of you guys put on there. So I'll do. So we got Arn Anderson. We all know this. I'll go first. Then I go to Steve Regal. Shit! He was 4 times television champion, 557 days combined. Steven Regal. In 93, I didn't appreciate his gimmick that much. And I know that now we look at Steven Regal and we're like, what a fucking talent, and he's amazing, and he works with NXT, and all that great stuff. But he started being like this really heel, kind of like British snobby character in WCW in 1993, and he ended up winning the television title 4 times. He faced people like Johnny B. Bad. He faced people like Arn Anderson to defend the title. He faced people like the British Bulldog to defend his title. Larry Zbyszko. Like, there was a lot of people that he did it. And even in the Monday Night Wars, when we got into like 97, he won the television title like 2 more times in that era, facing people like Chris Jericho, Ultimo Dragon. Like, Steven Regal was a really, really good television champion. When I think of the TV title, of course, we all think of Anderson, but one of my favorite years in WCW was 1993 for whatever odd reason, and I always remember Steven Regal had matches with, like I said, the Bulldog, Ricky Steamboat. He had matches with for the TV title there at that time.
And don't forget, he's a man's man.
He is a man's man. So Steven Regal is my number 2. My number 3 is Tully Blanchard. He is a 3-time television champion. Total combined reign, 685 days. That's pretty amazing. Tully Blanchard feuded with Dusty Rhodes over the television title. That was around the time in Crockett where even the top tier names were fighting over the TV title, which made it feel really valuable.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
that was the beauty of this title, is that they treated that title so importantly that you had former world champions fighting over that title. You had former U.S. title champions fighting over that title. It was as big, it was a big deal, and it was an awesome. It wasn't always used as like just a stepping stone. Like, it's like, oh, you won the TV title, then you won the U.S. title. Then sometimes you would go back and forth because there was that much weight.
Dusty Rhodes is a former television champion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, too, like I was going to say in the beginning to kind of prep up the TV title and the value of it, everybody remembers Flair and Steamboat fighting over the world title in 89. Fewer people remember their feud for the U.S. title before that. But
they did.
Very few people remember that they actually traded back and feuded over the TV title, too. Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat are also former world television champions. So that's also how important that title is. So that's my third, Tully Blanchard, and my fourth is Booker T. And he's six times champion. Not as much days combined as the rest, because he became champion in like the really fast, sped up Monday Night War era, where he won in '98 was like his big year as TV champion. After he broke away from the tag team with his brother Harlem Heat, he won the television championship, and that was his first single title. And we all knew as fans, all of us, I remember talking, going like, Booker T is fucking awesome. Like, and he was super talented, and he had great matches against Rick Martel, Perry Saturn, Bret Hart. There's tons of people that Booker T defended that title against in that 1998 period, and he was really good. So those are my four. Obviously, Arn Anderson, like we talked about before, Steven Regal, Tully Blanchard, and Booker S. T. Are my four.
I'll piggyback off that too, because I have two of the same. Obviously, we all know Arnie baby is the man. Love that man. Arn Anderson is the best, and every time I think of TV championships, I think of Arn Anderson. It's not even that's his name should be or his picture should be in the dictionary next to TV champion.
I think of the Z-Man, and I left him offline one of you guys can put him on.
If there was a fifth spot,
I have a feeling Dave is going to say the Z-Man right now. I have a funny feeling.
But what I would say, my piggyback is definitely off Booker T, because of what that personified for him to be a singles wrestler, like you said. You don't get a five-time world champion without the TV title going on first. That really kind of was able to personify him as singles and to see what he could do on his own. And he held his own, man. Booker, a 6-time TV champion, is definitely on my list. The other one for me that kind of, I don't think it holds up the way it does for you guys, but we talk about this guy a lot, and we don't understand why WCW made him so great, or WWF couldn't figure him out. And I'm starting to think maybe the TV title was where it kind of started, or kind of helped him personify, because we talk about the TV title was held as true grit, true weight. Lex Luger's only a 2-time television champion, but what that does for him to launch him into the stratosphere of WCW kind of immortality and become world champion, where it
actually completed his clean sweep. So he had already won like the world heavyweight title, and everybody knows Lex Luger is U.S. champion too. But it also became a fun trivia thing with fans. Like Shawn Michaels was a Grand Slam champion in WWF, and everybody knew that and all that stuff. And for a while we were keeping track. Okay, so and so has won the heavyweight title. Like Diesel of all people, Kevin Nash won the WWF World Heavyweight title, Intercontinental title, and tag team. So there was like the Grand Slam fans, good fans like us, fanatics, love counting that stuff. And Luger needed that television title to kind of complete his little journey, because he won tag titles with Sting. He was world heavyweight champion. He won the U.S. title multiple times. One of the greatest U.S. title holders ever, was Lex Luger. And he won the television title, to your point, Dave, to complete like his thing.
Yeah, I think that WCW found a way to make Luger way more relevant and noteworthy, and using that TV title. So I think it's very important. So he's on my Mount Rushmore for that. And then my last one, and Joe, you're going to hate it, but it's Steamboat. Steamboat is, he's a 4-time champion. I think he holds the second longest consecutive days, Jess, or close to it.
He's up there.
It's over 800 days. He's over 800 days.
Joe, did you hear that, Joe?
TV champ. Yeah.
Nearly 800, Dave. Not over. Nearly. It's just shy of the 800 mark.
So, Dave, you're four.
What's the official number? Give it to me.
Like 792.
Is it really?
I thought you were going to say like 2 weeks or something like that.
2 weeks.
So your four are Dave's four is Mr. Anderson, Mr. Booker, Mr. Luger, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. All right, fair enough. Joe, go ahead. Nice. So we all know Anderson for you, and then Steamboat. Let's get Steamboat out of
the way. This first one, I think, not so much for length of time or times it won, but I think for me it was, as a wrestling fan, impactful to me, because it demonstrated how important the TV title was, and how much credit that the organization and the wrestlers kind of put behind it, that it was a real title and that it was sought after. And my number one is Dusty Rhodes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I like that.
Because to me, that was the first time it was I'd never seen it didn't really happen in WWE, where it's if you were world champ, you didn't go and then win the Intercontinental title later.
You never went backwards.
Yeah,
a long
like
time.
so I thought it was a really like awesome move for Dusty and for the organization to take a former, a former world heavyweight champion and then have him fight. Oh, I mean, Dusty had been 3-4 time heavyweight champion. He's fighting over the TV title. That to me was impactful to make that belt important and to give it weight.
So he made it prestigious, right?
Among other people, but like to me, that was for me personally. That was like I was like, holy shit, this is like a real title. This isn't like a throwaway title. Dusty Rhodes has the title.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that too, because part of the reason why I put Tully Blanchard up there was because his feud with Rhodes was super notable. It
was awesome.
Like, it was really awesome. Yeah,
it was awesome. The next one. This one is a little bit controversial. Well, maybe I'll wait on that one. I'm going to wait on that one. This one I actually like. Again, no reason of like length of time or whatever. Just it was impactful to me for whatever reason. I remember him having the title, and I remember it like being a big deal when he did, and he had awesome matches. Was Great Muta?
Oh yeah,
yes.
I liked when Muta was champion, and like I said, it probably wasn't for that long, and it wasn't for that many times, but like, maybe it was just the time period that I was watching. But I just remember it being like him having the title was pretty awesome.
It was somebody from from the great beyond, like wrestling that we almost never saw, holding weight and making the TV title something to be sought after. Like that's a worldwide phenomenon of wrestler that takes that title on. So Joe, I don't know.
The funny thing is, Joe, is I'll name my honorable mentions later. But actually, the weird thing was one of the feuds that I was going to do as an honorable mention was Sting and Muta, because Sting was the TV champion and Muta beat him, and their series of matches was phenomenal. They were really great.
Yeah.
And
remember those matches being great. And again, like these are awesome matches to be fighting over the third tier title, and it was like
right.
And it made me always think that, like, why doesn't WWF have a third title? Like, they should have had another third tier title that the Jake Roberts and the Paul Orndorffs and like those that like level of wrestler that they could have won those titles.
Yeah,
and kind of been worked in. But
agreed.
And my last one, and this is a little bit of a controversial pick, just because of how he won the title. Because he didn't actually beat anybody. He actually just found the title in a
Stop it right now. I swear to God. I don't like anything about you right now.
I love it.
No. Oh, but if I wasn't going to pick him, because it seems like it's a little bit, how he won the titles, maybe not the best.
If I have to put Hacksaw Duggan on the mountain.
My third one is actually going to be Ricky Steamboat.
What?
Oh, wow.
Fuck
you actually did it.
I knew it.
Yeah. Well, just because,
you finally bowed down. Hey, what a historic episode this is.
I've never said that the guy didn't have an impact on the sport. I just said that he, that he had some great matches. I just happen to not appreciate putting his kid on a donkey dressed as a zebra, taking him down to the ring and bringing his baby. And that toward at a certain point of his career, I don't want to see, talk about reducing your moveset down to like hip drag, arm drag, press off the top, and chop. Like
dragon screw. What?
Yeah, but credit where credit is due. You're pushing 800 days total combined of time held with the title. Obviously, a huge talent, and
thank you.
Again, made a big deal. Like, and it was like again that former world champion that's. 91, 92 was bad. Obviously he battled for it in the early 80s with Flair too. But like I always just remember like him and Austin like battling, or I think it was Austin. Like they had a huge feud for.
Yes, no, Steamboat battled with Orndorff, and he battled with Austin for the TV title, and Flair back in the 70s. In like 77, 78 or something. Wow. So all of our mountains are pretty good. And so now I want to go into, I just wrote down like a list of like 5 or 6 honorable mentions. And we kind of touched on everything. I talked about the feud between Muta and Sting. Paul Jones is another one who was like up there with like the number of reigns and days, I believe, is an honorable mention. Steve Austin. Had a great...
It was him or Muta.
Shortly after he debuted in WCW, he defeated Beautiful Bobby Eaton for the television championship.
Oh, that's another one.
So that was really good, and that was 90.
You have Rick Steiner on that list, Jess, for honorable mention?
No, because it was like his reign was like 5 minutes.
Oh, come on.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Scott. I apologize. Rick Steiner. No, I don't, Dave. I don't, and thank you for bringing that up because when they had the Varsity Club and that feud and everything, that leads me into I listed Mike Rotunda. Because Mike Rotunda was also a really good television champion, and Rick Steiner did defeat him, Dave. So actually, that's a really good call out too. I also put Johnny B. Bad, who a lot of people, I don't know why they shit on Johnny B. Bad, Mark Merrow, and say that he wasn't a good wrestler.
He was good.
He got saddled with that shitty fucking Little Richard lookalike gimmick in 91, 92, thanks to Dusty Rhodes, by the way. But Dusty Rhodes discovered him and loved him, and he's like, he looks just like Little Richard. But then after that, Johnny B. Bad legitly learned how to wrestle. And I remember in like 94, 95, he was in really good feuds with DDP and everyone else. And we always joke around. There was a string in like 1994 where I swear to God, every 1994 pay-per-view opened by Johnny B. Bad defending or challenging for the TV title. It had to happen.
And we all laughed about it because nobody would ever clean up his streamers.
One of the on your mountain, Dave, one of the television titles that Lex Luger won was against Johnny B. Bad. I feel like
Johnny B. Bad was always like, and for talk about a guy like, to quote Bruce, that turn chicken shit into chicken salad or whatever.
Yeah,
or whatever the phrase is, like to have absolutely like ridiculously stupid gimmick.
But Joe,
and to somehow make it work, and like by pure talent, pure kind of like energy and charisma.
Yeah. So to your point, Joe, I think that hurt his WWF career because Vince McMahon loved Johnny B. Bad because it was like a honky tonk man kind of character, but face. Mm-hmm. And so Vince, when his contract was coming up and they went to get Mark Merrow in 1996, Vince is like, oh, and when they got Mark Merrow there and they couldn't use Johnny B. Bad because WCW owned it, like Vince was like, oh, and Bruce Pritchard's like, Vince really thought he was buying Johnny B. Bad. Like he was just because he loved the character, he loved his charisma, he loved everything. And then we got him over. We had to call him Mark Merrow, and he was Wild Man Mark Merrow, and he just never took off. Like Sable ended up being a massive star, and not him. And so it was like it's so funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because of Johnny B. Bad, I think his WWF career got sabotaged because Vince loved that and they couldn't. Yeah, it's crazy. Like so, it's a really weird thing. I also put Ricky Steamboat on my honorable mention. I'm so glad that Joe put him on his mountain. That's really emotional.
Paul, I'm growing as a person.
Paul Orndorff in 92, 93. I had a wonderful television championship run. I love Paul Orndorff and like his
no pun intended.
With that. And I already said Mike Rotunda, so no pun intended. He was a very wonderful television champion.
It was a very wonderful run.
There's been a lot of really good TV champions, and so we can't fit everybody on the mountain of four, especially because I was selfish and put Anderson on all of our mountains, and I forced you guys to do what I wanted.
You forced us.
And then Joe just fucking out of nowhere. It's just MVP put Steamboat on it. I was not expecting this.
I thought for sure.
I feel like I won an award, and I'm up doing a speech right now. Going, I'd like to thank all my friends and family.
To be fair, I did try to put Hacksaw Jim Duggan on.
You tried.
Steamboat.
I was going to shut this down. Like I was going to discontinue.
The wrestling purist in me and the wrestling traditionalist in me, I just couldn't do it.
If you made me put Hacksaw Duggan on a Mount
Rushmore, but only
Rushmore.
because Hacksaw didn't actually win the title, he found it.
He did. That is true.
That's the only reason.
If you made me put Hacksaw Duggan on a Mount Rushmore episode or whatever, I might have shut the whole podcast down. I might have. And I don't mean shut this episode down. I might have just been like, we're just done. Like, it's been a good 5-year run, and we're just not doing this anymore because Joe,
not doing it anymore.
I had to do that.
This is ridiculous.
This is the shark. The television championship is one of our when I do our forgotten titles episodes. It was on the first ever forgotten titles because I think people, to Joe's point earlier, lose sight of how valuable the television championship was. And while WWF always had the world heavyweight title and the intercontinental title, as fans, I remember Joe and I used to always talk back, when we were both Crockett fans and everything too, of like, man, WWF does everything better than Crockett, and / WCW. However, there's some things like the television title that we think that WWF should adopt. Like they should have had they tried it much later with the European Championship and it just fucking farted because Shawn Michaels touched it and he fucks everything up. Like if you give him privilege.
And Joe, you made a good point. Like the WWF roster never went backwards. Macho never went back and won the IC title again. I mean, it happened later. Like people would go down later, like
later on.
But
There was only a few
to be
people
fair,
like
that TV title could have really done that.
early on, like Pedro Morales, he was heavyweight champion, and then he went back and won the Intercontinental Championship. There was a couple examples back in the day, not a lot. To Joe's point,
but that was like it was also pre-Hogan,
right?
You know, and I think the Hogan years, like that 9-year Hogan run, right. it kind of changed the WWF structure of like Hogan was never going to lose the title and then go win the IC title. It's like it was the most important. IC was second. It was a stepping stone. But I always just thought that like it would have been cool to have a third tier title, not called the TV title. I do think that's kind of a dumb name, but I actually always thought that like so if you had the world title and then you had the Intercontinental title, a way for them to stick it to like WCW, and I always thought I was like with how Vince was that they would have called their third tier title the US title. You know, because it was like subpar, like that. You know, it was like Intercontinental's like intercontinents, but like the U.S. is then only within the U.S.
Yeah.
But you know, it could have been a title that they like, you know, that like people like Jake Roberts won. You know, that like or you know that guys that were over
or Hacksaw like back in his prime
or Hacksaw. I mean, you know,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The King's Crown was kind of that in a weird way. Like for a while, I remember like the King's Crown was sort of defended like that in a way.
Doesn't AEW call theirs like the TNT title or whatever? Like their
yes,
it was like their kind of I like that. So like it would be cool if like you know if you had you know it sounds kind of weird to say it out loud right now, but if you had the Netflix title, like if you're on Raw. There's the Netflix title.
So, well, to your point on that, Dave, and to Joe, to talk about what you were talking about before, I know you said the TV title name is a little ridiculous, but the whole, you know, I should have brought this up at the beginning. The whole original concept of the television championship was it was only defended on television. So on their syndicated shows, that was the center point. That would usually be the main event was for the television championship, and they could only be defended on television. So they never defended it originally on house shows. It was not because it wasn't a televised event. So it was pay-per-views, which was televised, or the syndicated shows or Clash of the Champions and all that. So that was the original concept of the television championship, was to defend it only on television. So wow, I love this episode. I want to Dave end it here because Joe put steam on his mountain. I don't know what to do. This has just been an emotional roller coaster.
And there you go. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel. And check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast. And in social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. For Jess, myself, and Joe, this is the O.W.P signing off. Have a good one.